international affairs commentator Douglas Herbert. First question, Doug. Who, if anybody, could challenge Harris for the presidency?
Well, there were a lot of, if you had asked me that 24 hours ago or just right after this announcement, I would have said, there were several names there. You had some prominent governors out there, governors from the states of Illinois, of Wisconsin, Michigan. You had names like Gretchen Whitmer. You had J.B. Pritzker. You had Andy Beshear from Kentucky. You had a lot of people whose names were sort of mooted and thrown about. But like I said, we got a sort of sense of that from this report. The ranks are closing fast. They are circling the wagons, this party, around Kamala Harris. And when I say things are moving fast, remember, it has been less than 24 hours, literally, since Joe Biden's dropped out of the race. And in that time, yes, Kamala Harris has been very quick on the uptake, working the phones, calling around, making the calls to the Democrats and the delegates that she is going to need to consolidate this vote, to make sure that the party, the word that we're using is coalesces around her. It's a race against the clock, literally. You said it at the top. There's 106 days to go. That's a snap of the fingers here in presidential elections. She doesn't have that much time. It looks like the party, more and more, we're seeing this critical mass of momentum building in her favor. Now, does that mean that it's going to be a coronation? No, not by any means. And in fact, the head of what's called the Democratic National Rules Committee has made it very clear they don't want it to be a coronation. And Kamala Harris herself, one of her earliest statements, right after Biden endorsed her, who says, I want to work and earn and win your votes, meaning the votes of the delegates. She doesn't want this to be some rubber stamp anointment, a coronation, to use that word again, in which she's just shoot in. That's exactly what the Trump campaign wants to do. They want to smear her, to slander her as some undemocratic appointee of these Democratic grandees that violates the will of the 14 million rank-and-file Democrats who went out and voted in primaries. So what she wants to do is she wants to make this as much of a democratic process as possible, wants to go through all the steps, wants the delegates themselves to be able to coalesce around her. So it's in her interest to do that. So when I say it's not going to be a coronation, what's less likely, and that as we sit here at this hour, could still happen, but I'm saying less likely, is an open convention. That thing we keep talking about, a brokered convention, where you get to Chicago on August 19th, Democratic National Committee meets. They have their 3,900 delegates plus 700 super delegates waiting in the wings, and they all have to sort of fight it out on the convention floor in speeches and vote by roll call for choose their nominee. Probably it's going to happen before. It could happen in a sort of virtual vote, but what's clear is they will go through process. But my hunch tells me it will be sooner rather than later that we see people coalescing, as is already happening. She got 6 Democratic governors today, big states, all coming out in favor of endorsing her, former potential rivals. So this is all big, and I think it's going to happen fast.
What would a Kamala Harris campaign actually look like, though, Doug?
It would look unlike a Biden campaign in the sense of right now she has been stuck up until now, right, with having to basically be the cookie cutter, the echo of Joe Biden, having to say and do whatever, and support him. And she has been very loyal and supportive. But now that it looks like it's going to be potentially her at the top of the ticket, she's going to be her own person. What her campaign team wants to do is put forward what they see as her greatest asset. She is running against a man who is a convicted felon, a man who was convicted on 34 felony counts in that hush money trial we all reported on. She is going to hammer away at that theme. She is a former prosecutor. She is an attorney general from California. She was a district attorney before that. She prosecuted the types of people, as her team sees it, that Donald Trump is. She has put the likes of people like Donald Trump in prison. They're going to hammer away at that and keep reminding the voters that what Donald Trump represents is a type of person that is a prosecutor throughout her career. Before becoming a senator, before becoming a vice president, she went after time and again in court. But she's also going to bring forward another giant Democratic campaign theme, perhaps their biggest asset, and that is her staunch support of abortion rights, which have been whittled away on the national level and slowly on the state level. She's going to remind the voters that she has stood by women and their right to choice, whereas this is a Republican Party that is which is in the process right now of whittling those down.
Doug Herbert, thanks for that.